there's obviously, following COVID and everything that's been happening lately, been a quite significant shift in how we do work. So many people are now in a hybrid state, both, education and work, and, people will have colleagues all around the globe. What do you think is the biggest risk, but also the biggest opportunity when it comes to, facilitating and learning that this new setup has presented?
Feminism. I read quite a good article. I'll send you the link afterwards, talking about how the sense of how, where we are now in this new, more flexible hybrid way of working is extremely beneficial for women, because we have, up until not very long ago, been working towards a very male-centric, male-led way of working, of being in the office between certain hours and struggling with leaving children at school, picking up children, all the things that makes it just a little bit more challenging being a woman in the workplace. So now, in this article, there was a survey asking women if this hybrid way of working is now becoming an equaliser in the workplace, and 88% of them say yes.
80%.
So, yeah, 88% believe that flexibility in hybrid work is equalizing women and men more in the workplace. So that's a really interesting, positive side, from an equity point of view. The risk is on an organizational point of view, if they don't take into account things like this, then they're going to lose half their work, because, why go back to something that was broken in the first place? So from that perspective, I find that really interesting. From like more a generalized perspective, I've been working, then I called it distributed, because hybrid wasn't really a word, but I've been working a lot. I don't have any employees in my company, and I put together teams depending on projects, and these teams are very rarely in the same city, let alone country. So I had those processes and practices in place, whereas what was I found really interesting during the pandemic, I had a lot of clients, new clients coming to me because they knew that, and they didn't have those processes. So it's kind of like, when the pandemic hit, I've never been so busy, and it was very much, come into my world, come into my flexible and lovely digital world. I've been doing it for years. Yes. So that was really nice. But a friend of mine, Malcolm Larry, has a good point, and he says that there's no point in having an office if you don't consider the office a tool. Like, it's not a place anymore, it's a tool. And then it depends how you use that tool. But I've noticed that office, I think it will become more social, hopefully more facilitation in leadership, because that's, going back to the facilitation side of things, it really needs to be facilitated. You really need to have a good team lead. You really need to have the sort of instructional side and all the organizational design there to, become effective. So facilitation is playing an even more imperative role in that. And one of I hope that from organizations buying in facilitation or buying in workshops, learning courses, that they actually get educated themselves in facilitation and can start to practice facilitation skills, because I think it's the group or the skill set that's really going to solve most things. I mean, remember, taking something complex, making it simple. So I think there's lots of opportunity there. All the other companies will crash and burn and die but, but the ones, embracing facilitation, and women will do well.
Oh, 100% agree. I mean, it is now also a competitive edge for companies to offer hybrid working, because a lot of people won't accept anything else, because it's just much more creative for how people actually behave. And like I said, how women's life especially might be, and especially if you have a family, from both partners' perspective, it just makes it so much easier to do a school run and then get back into the office and be much more flexible in your lifestyle, and you can be more present at work and in your house.
Exactly. And I've got a great benefit living in Sweden, and it is a lot more sort of equal in terms of parental leave and all that stuff. This survey was done in the States, I believe, where it's a completely different, kettle of fish. But I think it's interesting to see we're not kind of undoing something. Like, we're not undoing this, crazy pandemic time. We actually have a chance to make whatever we had better.
Yeah.
And because everyone got thrown into the same, sinkhole, the whole, learning mindset, growth mindset, I've seen people I wouldn't have expected being so creative and testing new things because they had to.
Yeah.
So now it's more like, how can we change that we have to, or we would like to?
Yeah, there's something about when people end up in some sort of crisis, like COVID definitely was, that forces us to reconsider what we sort of accept as normal and don't ever really think about. And I think there's so much room for creativity and learning from that crisis situation that you can sort of bring forward.
Exactly. And, in terms of things like belonging and team development, going through a shitstorm is actually, part of building a healthy team culture. So learning to cope with those things and setting rules and frameworks. And I was actually laughing the other day because I saw it was like our sort of work culture policy type thing, and I read through it, and it mimicked very similarly the emails that I would send in advance of a Zoom conference. Like, remember to stand where the light is facing you. Like, all these things that back then people were just like, they didn't get it, right? They're all like, oh, I'm just gonna be in this call right now. But now, I think most people know their good angle.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was just interesting how it just went from like common sense, I thought was common sense.
Yeah.
Which is, with time.
Well,
with time, we see more than people's nostrils.
Or people with cat filters, which is my absolute favorite moment out of the pandemic still.
It just adds fun.
Yeah. It's funny you said about light, because I have literally moved this massive table that's in this boardroom that we're in and moved it right up into the window just to get the good lighting.
There you go. See, planning.
Reorganized the entire room just for this.
Yeah.